this is in general, there are two options. The first option is the Modbus RTU. This option means that you use two lines to connect the Modbus device with the master. Master is TapHome core. TapHome core works as a master. The Modbus device works as a slave. So in Modbus RTU, you use the AB line, so two wires. In the Modbus in general, the A is minus and the B is plus. So it's opposite than the standard RS485. It's the opposite, but not every manufacturers take care about this, because I have a lot of experience that the A sometimes could be plus and B could be minus. This is the reason why you need to have the Modbus guide, Modbus manual from the manufacturer, the original one, where in the beginning of the manual there is a section about the hardware settings and all that stuff. But in general, Modbus RTU is a AB line. Almost every time you need to use the optical isolator. The gateway of the device is powered by separate power supply, and TapHome core is on the other end is powered by TapHome power supply. So there are two power supplies with two GNDs, and to be sure there will be no problem with the voltage or instability of the voltage, you need to use the optical isolator. If you are sure that the Modbus device you are using is covered by the optical isolator on the device side, there is no need for the separate optical isolator. Optical isolator is available on TapHome as well, so you can buy one from us, or you can buy a different one by yourself somewhere else.
Optical isolator, we mount him in the electric panel, right?
Yes, this must be done for sure, because there is a potential dangerous incident could happen on the AB line, because high amount of voltage could destroy the bus on the TapHome side, or the gateway bus on the device side. Okay, and the third requirement for the Modbus RTU is the separate TapHome bus. So if you need to use Modbus RTU on TapHome core, you need to leave one TapHome bus empty for the Modbus communication, because if you use the Modbus together with our modules on the same bus, this will break the Modbus as well as the TapHome internal communication, because it's a mixed together and make a noise on the bus, and nothing will work, nothing will communicate. So TapHome bus must be empty for the Modbus. So you can use empty TapHome bus for the Modbus communication. Here, the notice, you can use more than one device on the same TapHome bus, but that Modbus devices need to share the same general Modbus settings, except the slave ID. In software requirements, you need the original Modbus manual. This is what I asked in our WhatsApp communication, that please send me the original Modbus manual, Modbus documentation, which includes all the general Modbus settings and the detailed Modbus table. This is crucial for me and crucial for everyone who works with Modbus to understand how the Modbus is implemented in that device, and it's crucial to know the addresses for each function, because the detailed Modbus table includes the register addresses, the register types, the register names, how the function is labeled, and value format and description. And general Modbus settings. General Modbus settings are the settings which must be set at the beginning on the side of the device and must be mirrored on the side of the TapHome to make them communicate in general. Yes, general Modbus settings means the slave ID because the device connected to TAP is always the slave. The baud rate, this is the frequency of the communication, the parity, the number of data bits and number of stop bits. These are the main basic general Modbus settings we need to know before we start. And in general Modbus settings, there is a slave ID, and this is the slave ID. Each device need to use the same baud rate. Each device need to use the same parity. Each device need to use the same data bits and stop bits, but each device need to use different slave ID. Under these conditions, you can use more than one Modbus device on the same TapHome bus. Because if any of the general Modbus settings differs among the connected devices, this will completely break the communication on that bus, and nothing could be able to communicate on the bus. So this is the reason why those things must be in sync to each other, except the slave ID. The slave ID must be every time different. Because if you use the same slave ID for two devices, which are connected to the same TapHome bus, the result will be the same. They will break the communication of each other. So they mixed together and nobody will be able to understand what's going on. It's clear for you?
Yes.
Okay. So this is for Modbus RTU. RTU is almost every time a little bit more complicated because of the different kind of connection, and there is a lot of things to be set before you start inserting the functions, the registers into the TapHome. Another option of the Modbus communication is Modbus TCP/IP. TCP/IP works very simply using the IP address. So the main hardware requirement is having a local network, local connection, and on that connection, you make sure that IP address of the core is on the same submask as the IP address of the device to make them visible to each other. Yes, the core must be able to see the device, so the IP addresses must be visible from the both sides. And what I recommend is fixed IP. So having to get this, you need to make an IP reservation inside the router. So you go to the router in the Modbus. You need to make a reservation for the device only, because when the core is master and the core is every time asking for the information, or is every time trying to write some changes into device, so the communication is managed by the core. So I must correct myself. So the IP reservation is the crucial just on the device side, not the core one. Yeah, but you can use the core. It's the same for core if you have intercom on that location or something like that. But for the Modbus needs, you need just a reservation for the device. So, and the software requirements very similar to the RTU option. So you need the original Modbus manual with the detailed Modbus table. What is not important for us, what we do not need, is the general Modbus settings, because everything is working based on the IP address. So it doesn't matter what ID you have, and if you use more than one device on the same network, the IP address preserve the functionality of the Modbus, because each device has its unique IP address. So you don't need any slave ID, you don't need any baud rate, parity, database, topic, nothing else, just the IP. IPs must be unique for each device, and then you can use the LAN, the local network for many Modbus devices, not just for one. It's clear for you, okay?
Yes.
I try to find the location where we have some Modbus device connected currently, and it's our office, our TapHome office, where we have electricity meter with the Modbus communication RTU connected on the bus 3, so we can go to try doing some Modbus editing inside the TapHome application. Okay, so here we have the the installation. This is our office installation, and we have on the hardware we have a Modbus RTU, which is already done, but I will switch it off and we'll start from the ground. Okay, so first, I will do it in a different way to start with the from the ground, and this will be, I will delete it and start from the very beginning. Okay, so in the settings, in the hardware, add new interface, because the Modbus needs to have a unique interface. Modbus RTU, so I will choose the Modbus RTU, and then we have the set of the general Modbus settings. This page is about the general Modbus settings. First one is the bus on TapHome side. So we have to use the bus that is enabled for the Modbus. Is bus 3. Then we open the Modbus manual. This is the Modbus manual from the manufacturer for that electricity meter, and there are some general Modbus settings here and here. So we have here the register type is not important now, but later is very important. But we have 8 data bits, parity is even, stop bit is 1, and baud rate is, default baud rate is 9600, and the slave ID default is 1. Okay, when I go now to the TapHome, stop bit's 1, parity is even, data bit's 8, it's okay, baud rate is 9600, it's okay, and these 3 lines are in default. So now we have the basic settings which mirrors the settings provided by the manufacturer inside the manual. So I will save, and now we, as a next step, we had to add new module, or you can use the add from team template. Yes, we have a lot of things categorized by the groups, in the groups, air recovery, many devices, many groups and many devices inside, electricity metering, heat pumps. All these devices are already integrated, so we have templates for them, so no need to do it manually. Yes, but for the training, I use the standard manual process. So add the module, and this module represents the hardware counterpart. So we need to have this module created at the very beginning, and inside this module we will add all the functions we selected from the Modbus table inside the Modbus manual. So we can call it, for example, electricity meter model. You can use anything you want. And now we have created the module. The module is the basic part inside which we can start adding new devices. These devices means the software functions. We go back to the manual. In the table, there is a register address, which is important for us, the register address. Many times is in a hexa format, not in decimal format. Register address is first important things. Here is the name of the function. And here, what is important, the function is just for reading or for writing. Yes, so reading mean TapHome just getting the information from the device. So not TapHome will ask and the device will answer the information, the value. But TapHome is not able to change the value, to write that value. So this is just for read. And if you have the write function, the write function allows TapHome to change the value in the device. Air conditioners or heat pumps or ventilations, all that stuff use many writing functions, many writing features like the mode, regime, the level of ventilation, all that stuff. And when we talk about the electricity metering, most of the functions are just for reading. Let's start, for example, with the grid frequency. And grid frequency must be there for sure because the grid frequency is in general is represented on the electricity meter. So grid frequency has address 0014. When we put the 14 into the hex, we will get 20. When we go back to the TapHome, add new device, we can use the variable. It's a variable. And the TapHome is creating the variable. Now we have a variable which is now in error because we have nothing set properly. Now I open the variable, rename it to grid frequency. Okay. In service settings, we have some important rows. First of all, this is just for read. So I will switch the read only. So we need to correct just the read script here. Yeah. So in Modbus section, read variable, we open it. We know from the manual, we know that the register type is holding. Is the register type is holding. So now holding is represented by the capital H. Yeah, this is the holding. This is the type of the register. We know from the manual that the grid frequency address, register address is 20 in decimal because we recalculated it. It's 20, so we use 20. And then we know that the frequency, the value type, the value format is float. Float means that it's a 32 bits floating point number. Yeah, this is the type of that value. Is float. So go back to the TapHome, and instead of integer 16 bytes, we need to use float. TapHome support float. If we make an error, TapHome gives us the information about that error. There is a problem. TapHome doesn't know float type of value, so I will correct it back. Now we have the register type is holding, the register address is 20, and the value on that address is in float format. I will press OK. Now we have it here. And we have also the option for internal pole interval. This means how fast will the value be refreshed. So I can use shorter time than 15 seconds, 0.5 seconds for example. And now I save the settings. Now it's refreshed, and we can see that the grid frequency on the electricity meter is 50 hertz plus minus. So it works. The same process could be used for any other function from the table. Yes, you can use any other. When you have all, you can go to the module, and here you have the button Save as Template. You can save your template with the name, the desktop, for example, and save. When I go to my desktop, we can see that the template is there.